Missouri to make the playoff might be one of the best value bets in all of college football. I say that because their schedule might be the most workable in the SEC. So Eli Drinkwitz and company went 11-2 last year. I pause after things I want to make sure you heard correctly, because you did hear that correctly. Missouri football 11-2, beat Kansas State in a thriller, beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. It's a pretty darn good year. Eli Drinkwitz got an extension for a good reason. They bring back their head coach. They've got their quarterback. They got their star receiver. Boy, those are a lot of things I like. You know what I love even more? Their schedule. Missouri might have the most workable schedule in the SEC. The other team I'm going to talk about is Kansas. I'll talk about their playoff aspirations in just a moment. So here's Missouri's schedule in order. I'm just going to read you all 12 games, and then I'll dive into a couple of points. Hosting Missouri State, hosting Buffalo, hosting Boston College, hosting Vanderbilt, at Texas A&M, at UMass, poor UMass, host Auburn, at Alabama, host Oklahoma, at South Carolina, at Mississippi State, host Arkansas. Let me ask you something. If you were to draw up the most workable, which is kind of the polite way of saying easiest, schedule in the SEC, how would it look any different than what Missouri has got here? You play Alabama, that have a first-year head coach who I'm very high on. It's going to be a good team. You play them on the road. That's never an easy place to go. I believe Bryant-Denny Stadium has historically been a challenging place to emerge victorious. I don't expect that to change this year. But you're not playing third-year LSU head coach Brian Kelly. You're not playing Kirby Smart in Georgia. You're not playing Steve Sarkisian in Texas. No, you got a first-year head coach down there. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying of the bunch, would you rather play a third, fourth, or fifth-year head coach or a ninth-year head coach, whatever year Kirby Smart is in, or would you rather play the first-year guy? Probably the first-year guy. Doesn't mean I think you're going to win the game. I'm just saying it's more preferable than the other options available. So you play Alabama. You host Oklahoma, who, by the way, are working in a brand-new offensive line and a true freshman quarterback, essentially. At Texas A&M, that's not an easy game. That's certainly not an easy game. Where else are the difficult games in here? I mean, Auburn at home? Sure, I like what Hugh Freeze has done this offseason. They could lose that game, but it's a home. It's a home. There are a lot of wins on that schedule. And the reason you need to think about Missouri in terms of the playoff is that they don't have to make the SEC championship game. There are five automatic bids given to the 5 highest-ranked conference champions. There are actually 7 automatic bids. And the 6th and 7th automatic bids, I believe, in all likelihood, barring unforeseen circumstances in which a 9-3 team gets in and then loses to go 9-4. LSU did do that a couple of years ago. If that doesn't happen in the Big Ten or the SEC, you're going to have, in all probability, the Big Ten and SEC championship game losers also get into the playoff. Because in the Big Ten, you don't have divisions anymore. So what if it's been, as it has been several years in the past, the teams with the 2 best records, if you'd eliminated divisions, you'd have 11-1 Ohio State, 11-1 Michigan. And if Michigan were to have won those games, 12-1 Michigan, 11-2 Ohio State. Oh, yeah, no, they would have both made the playoff unquestionably. Okay. What about in the SEC? Last year, Georgia, Alabama. Yeah, both teams would have been in the playoff. That's been the most common occurrence in the SEC championship game. It's not every year. I think it is more likely than not that at least one Big Ten SEC title game runner-up gets in, and I think it's more likely that both do than none of them do because of the way the conferences shake out. Just saying. So if Missouri goes 10-2, which is wildly workable on this schedule. I mean, that's got to be the most workable schedule in the SEC. First of all, you start off with 4 straight games of home cooking. They're going to be a fat favorite in all of them. Murray State, Buffalo, Boston College, Vanderbilt. That's 4-0. Texas A&M, year 1 with Mike Elko at the helm. Look, it's not easy to win at College Station, but I mean, I've seen it happen before. Missouri's a good football team. They could win that game. If they win 2 of Texas A&M, Alabama, which are on the road, and Oklahoma, You can bookmark Missouri for 10 wins and a playoff appearance. 10-2 SEC, it's going to get you in. Even if they don't have a bunch of quality wins. Let's say they lose to Texas A&M and Alabama, but they beat Oklahoma and everybody else on their schedule. I don't know how Missouri's going to get left out of the playoff. SEC bias is a thing, deservedly so. But that's one of the fascinating things to watch for in the college football season in this 12-team era. What does the committee do with 10-2 SEC Big Ten teams and like 10-2 Big 12 teams? How do they feel? How do they adjudicate? Do they look at strength of schedule? Because it's not a very tough schedule. Missouri's win total is 9.5 for a reason. I don't know if they're actually a 9.5 caliber preseason win total team, but that's a 9.5 schedule with the team that they are. So Kansas, on the other hand, is the opposite. Kansas is the opposite because in order for the Jayhawks to get into the college football playoff, again, entirely feasible, they have to win their conference championship. So they're a plus 600 to make the playoff, but that wouldn't be the smart bet because Kansas is not getting an at-large berth here. Their schedule includes a non-conference bout at Illinois, who might not even make a bowl game this year. They've got Big 12 games at West Virginia, at Kansas State, Iowa State. I mean, that's just not going to be enough. Barring a 12-0 season in which they lose the Big 12 championship game, go 12-1, I do not foresee them getting in the playoff. I fully believe this is possible. Kansas could go 11-1, lose the conference championship game to Utah, for instance, and miss the playoff. That could happen. To caliber that schedule, I just read you a weak Big 12 schedule. This is what it is in full for Kansas. Lindenwood at Illinois. Lindenwood's a new D1 program. UNLV at home, at West Virginia. TCU, at Arizona State. Houston, at Kansas State. Iowa State, at BYU, Colorado, and at Baylor. That's not going to be treated the same. That 11-1 versus a Missouri 10-2. Who do you think the committee's going with there? I've got my gut instinct, and so plus 600 and make the playoff is an underdog play with nice value, but the smarter play would be for Kansas plus 850 to win the Big 12 championship game. They've got the third best odds according to our friends over at FanDuel, behind Kansas State and Utah, who are far more sizable favorites in terms of their odds to win the conference championship this year. But I wouldn't rule out Kansas. I mean, Jalen Daniels is still there. Lance Leipold is still there. They lost their offensive coordinator, but it's not like Jalen Daniels doesn't know that system inside and out. He's been doing it for the last several years. So I would look for Kansas because of the conference title implications, and I would look at Missouri because of their lack of need to make the conference title as teams that could find themselves in the college football playoff this year that you might not think about right at first. If there's anyone else you want me to talk about, let me know. Drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments or hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.